Welcome to AudioCert, where the official study guides are brought to life. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the foundational language of the Project Management Professional, or PMP certification. This isn't just about earning a credential. It's about equipping yourself with a globally recognized benchmark, a common language, and a robust framework to navigate complex projects successfully.
That's precisely right. The PMP isn't merely a badge. It's a commitment to a standardized approach in project management. It provides a common vocabulary and set of principles that transcend industries and, geographies. When you're PMP certified, you're not just speaking about projects. You're speaking the project language, which is absolutely vital for effective communication, minimizing misunderstandings, and ultimately delivering successful outcomes.
And that shared language, that common understanding, is exactly what we're after today. For our listeners, this deep dive is a direct pathway, a true shortcut to being incredibly well-informed. We're not diving into a complex technique or a specific software tool just yet. Instead, we're tackling something that, on the surface, might seem quite straightforward. The Glossary of PMP terms, from A Guide to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBO Guide 7th edition.
Indeed. While a glossary might sound like a simple list of definitions, it's anything but. Think of it as the DNA of project management, the fundamental building blocks of communication and comprehension. Without a precise, shared understanding of these terms, project communication falters, expectations misalign, and, successful project outcomes become much more challenging to achieve. It's not about rote memorization. It's about grasping the nuance, the context, and the implications of each term, because precision in language directly translates to precision in execution.
I can certainly attest to that. I've been part of teams where a seemingly innocent word like complete or done held entirely different meanings for the developer versus the QA tester or even the client. Those kinds of linguistic disconnects can just snowball into disastrous missed deadlines, endless rework, and a mountain of frustration. So, from your experience, what are some of the most common, maybe insidious pitfalls you see when a project team doesn't share this clear, unified vocabulary?
Oh, that's a great question. A critical issue that frequently arises is what I call semantic drift, where terms gradually sort of take on different meanings across team members or stakeholders. Take the word risk, for instance. To a C-suite executive, risk might immediately conjure images of high-level strategic threats to market share or, brand reputation. But to a technical team member, risk might refer to a potential bug in the code or maybe a hardware component delay. If these different interpretations aren't explicitly aligned, discussions about risk mitigation become utterly unproductive. People think they're addressing the same thing, but they're really not.
Right, they're talking past each other.
Exactly. Or consider scope. Without a clear, universally understood definition, the project team might be building exactly what they thought was asked for, only for the client to declare at the end that it's not what they wanted. These seemingly small differences in understanding can lead to significant budgetary overruns, schedule delays, and eroded trust.
That paints a vivid picture of why this matters so profoundly. Our mission for this deep dive, then, is crystal clear. We're here to unpack a carefully selected set of these critical terms, provide the essential context, and illustrate their practical application. We want you, our listener, to grasp not just what each term means, but why it matters, how it fits into the intricate tapestry of successful project execution, and most importantly, how understanding it can empower your projects. This isn't just a dictionary reading, it's a guided, insightful tour.
Precisely. By the end of this deep dive, our aim is for you to feel significantly more confident in project management discussions. You'll not only understand the explicit definitions, but also the underlying implications of the jargon, effectively decoding what some might perceive as the secret language of PMP. This empowers you to communicate with greater clarity, contribute more strategically, and ultimately enhance your project's chances of success.
Okay, so let's start by understanding how this glossary is put together. It's not just a random collection of words, right? It's highly curated. Why is that deliberate selection process so important, and what typically earns a spot in this specialized vocabulary?
Right. The curated nature of the PMBOK glossary is fundamental to its utility. It's designed to be a focused tool, not an exhaustive dictionary. The editors essentially ask, what terms are essential and unique to project management or have a specific meaning within our field that differs from common usage? So what makes the cut are terms deeply embedded in our discipline, like, say, work breakdown structure or earned value, which aren't broadly understood outside of project management circles. But also, and this is crucial, it includes terms that have a distinct and nuanced meaning in project management compared to how we might use them in, everyday conversation.
That nuance sounds like a potential trap for the unwary. Can you give us an example of a term that has a truly unique project management meaning, one that's distinct from its general usage, something that could easily be misinterpreted?
Absolutely. One of the best examples is probably contingency reserve. In everyday life, contingency might just mean a backup plan or maybe a general fund for unexpected problems. You might say, I have a contingency fund for emergencies.
Yeah, like a rainy day fund.
Exactly. But in project management, a contingency reserve is a very specific amount of time or money allocated within the project's baseline specifically to address known risks for which we've developed active response strategies. It's a calculated, deliberate buffer for uncertainties we've actually identified.
Okay, so it's planned uncertainty in a way.
That's a good way to think about it.
Hmm.
Another excellent example is release planning, particularly in Agile contexts. Generally, releasing something could be anything from launching a new product to, I don't know, letting a bird go free. But in an Agile project, release planning refers to the structured, strategic process of outlining how a product, deliverable, or an increment of value will be transitioned to customers over a series of iterations or sprints. It involves making deliberate decisions about what features will be delivered and when to maximize value and gather feedback. It's far more strategic and formal than just, shipping something.
That really clarifies the precision needed.
Okay, so if those are the terms that do make it in, what about the terms that get left out? What doesn't quite make the cut for this specialized dictionary, and why?
The exclusions are just as deliberate as the inclusions, all aimed at efficiency and focus. Generally, the glossary avoids terms with obvious, everyday meanings. You won't find calendar day or delay defined because, well, we all understand them in their common sense. There's no value in adding clutter or cognitive load for something universally understood.
Right, save space and time.
Exactly. Similarly, compound terms whose meanings are clear from their constituent parts are typically omitted. If you understand project and manager, then project manager doesn't really need its own definition. The same applies to variants of a term if the base term already provides clarity. And lastly, terms that appear only once or twice in the entire guide and aren't fundamental to a core concept are also usually excluded.
Makes sense.
Think of it this way. A highly specialized medical dictionary won't define hospital or doctor because those are common terms.
But it absolutely will define nosocomial infection or prognosis because those are specific to the medical field or carry a distinct meaning within that context. The underlying rationale for these exclusions is to avoid information overload. It keeps the focus squarely on the essential, unique, or distinctly nuanced concepts that a project management professional must master to speak the common language effectively. It's about respecting the learner's time and attention.
That makes incredible sense. It's like filtering out the everyday noise to truly hone in on the unique vocabulary that can make or break a project discussion. It's about learning smarter, not just, memorizing longer lists. All right, let's decode some of the alphabet soup that often greets us in project management docs. These acronyms can feel like a real barrier at first glance, but I know they're crucial for efficient communication. I'm actually kind of relieved we're tackling them head on.
They certainly can be daunting initially. Acronyms are ubiquitous in project management because they enable quick, concise communication once everyone understands them. But, as you rightly point out, if not fully understood, they can lead to significant misinterpretation. So let's unpack some of the most critical ones, particularly those tied to performance measurement. When we talk about measuring project progress and financial health, especially through earned value analysis or EVA, a set of acronyms becomes absolutely indispensable.
Okay, EVA.
Got it. First up, AC, or actual cost. This is straightforward. It's the total monetary amount actually spent to date on the work that has been performed. Simple as that.
Okay, what you actually paid out.
Yep. Then BAC, or budget at completion. This is your North Star for budgeting the total planned budget for the entire project from start to finish.
The whole pot of money you plan for.
Exactly. Now, EV, or earned value, this is where it gets insightful. EV represents the value of the work actually performed to date, measured against the baseline budget. It tells you, in budget terms, how much work you should have accomplished based on what you've actually finished.
Huh. So it connects the work done back to the budget. Interesting.
Precisely. And PV, or planned value. This is what you plan to spend by a certain point in time. It's the value of the work scheduled to be completed by that point.
Okay, plan versus earned value. Got it.
Now, let's see how these tell us about performance. CV, or cost variance. Calculated as earned value minus actual cost, EVAC. A positive CV means you're under budget for the work achieved. Negative means you're over budget.
Simple subtraction, EV minus AC.
Okay? Then CPI, or Cost Performance Index. This is the ratio. Earned value divided by actual cost, EVAC. A CPI greater than 1.0 indicates you're efficient with your budget, getting more value per dollar spent. Less than 1.0 means you're spending more than planned for the work done.
So over 1 is good, under 1 is bad, efficiency-wise.
You got it. Now for schedule, SV, or schedule variance. Calculated as earned value minus planned value, EVPV. Positive SV means you're ahead of schedule in terms of value created. Negative SV means you're behind.
EV minus PV this time, okay.
And SPI, or Schedule Performance Index, another ratio. Earned value divided by planned value, EVPV. An SPI greater than 1.0 means you're ahead of schedule. Less than 1.0 means you're behind schedule performance-wise.
Similar logic to CPI. Over 1 is ahead, under 1 is behind.
Exactly. Finally, for forecasting where you're headed, EAC, or Estimate at Completion. The forecasted total cost of the project when all work is completed. Basically, your best guess of the final bill based on current performance.
Your prediction of the total cost.
Right. ETC, or Estimate to Complete. The estimated cost to finish the remaining work from the current point forward.
How much more money you think you'll need.
Yep. And VAC, or Variance at Completion. This tells you the projected difference between your original total budget and your forecasted total cost at the end. Budget at completion minus estimate at completion, BAC, EAC. It shows if you're projected to finish under or over budget overall.
That's a powerful suite of metrics. Could you walk us through a quick small project scenario to see these numbers in action? Because that's where the real aha moment usually happens for me.
Absolutely. Let's imagine a project to develop a new feature for a mobile app. Let's keep it simple. The BAC, budget at completion, for this feature is set at, say, $5,000.
Okay, $5,000 total budget.
Right. 2 weeks into a 4-week project, our plan indicated we should have completed 50% of the work. So our PV, planned value, is $2,500. That's 50% of the $5,000 BAC.
Makes sense. Halfway through, should have spent half the budget, ideally.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
But when we assess the actual progress, maybe only 40% of the work is truly completed and verified. So our EV, earned value, is $2,000. That's 40% of the $5,000 BAC.
Uh-oh. Only earned $2K value, but planned for $5K.
Exactly. And checking the invoices, maybe we've actually spent $3,000 so far. So our AC, actual cost, is $3,000.
Ouch! Spent $3K, only got $2 worth of work done, and we're behind schedule's value too. This doesn't sound good.
It definitely signals issues. Now let's quickly calculate the performance. Cost variance, CV, EVAC equals OK too. $2,000 and $3,000 equals $1,000. This immediately tells us we are $1,000 over budget for the work we've accomplished. We spent $3,000 but only earned $2 worth of work.
Negative 1,000, clear as day.
Cost performance index,
Yep.
CPI. EVAC equals $2,000, $3,000, 0.67 cents. This ratio, being less than 1.0, confirms our budget inefficiency. We're only getting about 67 cents of value for every dollar spent.
Not great efficiency.
Not at all. Schedule variance, SV. EVPV equals $2,000, $2,000 over $500. This reveals we are $500 worth of work behind schedule.
Negative 500 on the schedule side.
And Schedule Performance Index, SPI. EVPV equals $2,000, 2,500 equals 0.8. Again, less than 1.0, showing we're progressing at only 80% of our planned rate.
So we're slow A&D, spending too much.
In a nutshell, yes. From these few quick calculations, we know the app feature project is both over budget and behind schedule. This EVA provides an incredibly clear snapshot of project health, enabling timely intervention before things get worse.
Wow, okay. That really brings it to life. Thanks. What about other acronyms beyond the EVM ones?
Good point. Let's touch upon some vital planning and control acronyms. CCB, the Change Control Board. This is a formally chartered group, often key stakeholders, empowered to review, evaluate, approve, or reject changes to the project. They're basically the gatekeepers of the project's scope, schedule, and cost baselines.
The change police, in a way.
You could say that. CPM, the Critical Path Method, a fundamental scheduling technique that helps us determine the shortest possible duration for a project by identifying the longest sequence of dependent activities. We'll talk more about that later.
Okay, critical path. Heard that one a lot.
EEF, Enterprise Environmental Factors. These are the external and internal conditions, not under the immediate control of the project team, that can significantly influence, constrain, or direct the project. Think of them as the operating environment, the context you work within.
Like the rules of the road you can't change.
Good analogy. And OPA, Organizational Process Assets. In contrast to EEFs, these are the internal assets of the organization: plans, processes, policies, procedures, and crucial knowledge bases that the project team can leverage to execute and govern the project effectively. These are the tools and maps the organization provides.
Okay, EEF is the environment, OPA is the internal toolkit.
Exactly. PMB, the performance measurement baseline. This is the integrated scope, schedule, and cost baselines, all approved and locked down. It serves as the benchmark against which actual project performance is measured using things like EVA.
The official starting point for measurement.
Precisely. And WBS, the work breakdown structure, a hierarchical decomposition of the total project scope into smaller, more manageable components. It makes complex projects digestible, breaking big, scary things into little manageable chunks.
I like that. Makes sense. So EEFs and OPAs. It sounds like EEFs are the currents you navigate, and OPAs are the maps and tools you use. Could you give us a concrete example of how each might impact a project?
That's a brilliant way to frame it, currents versus tools. Imagine you're managing a new product launch for a technology company. An EEF might be a sudden new government regulation on data privacy. Your project cannot proceed without complying with this, even if it adds cost or time. It's a condition imposed from the outside that you must adapt to.
Right. Unavoidable.
Another EEF could be a shift in market conditions, like a competitor suddenly releasing a similar product. This might force you to accelerate your schedule or reevaluate your pricing strategy. Again, external pressure. Now, an OPA in the same company could be a comprehensive lessons learned database from previous product launches, detailing successful marketing campaigns or common technical challenges. Your team can consult this to avoid reinventing the wheel or repeating past mistakes.
Using the company's history.
Exactly. Another OPA might be standardized templates for project charters or risk registers that the organization has developed over time. These streamline your initial planning phases. So EEFs are indeed the external and internal forces you work within, and OPAs are the internal resources you work with.
All right, we've set the stage, decoded some critical acronyms. Now it's time to really plunge into the core vocabulary at the very heart of the PMP glossary. I'm ready to understand how these fundamental terms weave into the fabric of real-world project scenarios.
Excellent. Let's begin with the foundational elements that define what a project is and how it unfolds. A. Foundational concepts in project lifecycle. At its simplest, a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The critical elements here are temporary. It has a distinct beginning and end. It's not ongoing operations. And unique, meaning its outcome is distinct from other similar efforts, even if elements are repeated.
Okay, so if I'm planning a major company holiday party, that's a project. It's temporary, and the specific event is unique. But my daily administrative tasks, like answering emails or processing invoices, those are routine operations, not a project, right? Even if they help the company.
Precisely. Your holiday party is an excellent project analogy. It has a clear end date and a distinct one-time outcome. Project management, then, is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. This often involves navigating through 5 process groups: initiating planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. Though the PMBOK 7th edition frames things more on principles and performance domains now, these groups are still a very useful concept.
Right, the classic 5 groups.
The project lifecycle describes the series of phases a project progresses through, from its inception to its completion. Each project phase groups logically related activities that culminate in one or more deliverables. But it's vital to differentiate this from the product lifecycle, which tracks the entire evolution of a product from its initial concept through its development, growth, maturity, and eventual retirement.
Okay, that distinction between project and product life cycles. I know that trips people up sometimes. Could you re-emphasize the difference? Like, the project life cycle is about getting a thing done, while the product life cycle is the entire journey of the thing itself.
You've hit the nail on the head. Imagine a popular smartphone model. Its product life cycle spans many years, from initial R&D through multiple model releases, software updates, marketing campaigns, and ultimately its obsolescence.
The whole lifespan of the phone model.
Exactly. Each of those individual efforts, designing the first model, developing the next OS update, launching a new marketing campaign, each of those is a separate project, each with its own project lifecycle: initiation, planning, execution, closure. So a single product can spawn numerous projects throughout its broader life cycle. The project is the temporary effort. The product is the enduring entity that the project might create or modify.
Got it. That makes it much clearer.
A deliverable is any unique product, service, or result required to be produced to complete a process, phase, or project. It's what you hand over. An artifact is a broader term, encompassing any template, document, output, or even a project deliverable itself. So a deliverable is a type of artifact, but not all artifacts are deliverables.
Okay, artifact is the general category.
Right. An assumption is a factor in the planning process that we consider to be true, real, or certain without proof or demonstration. We assume it's true for planning purposes. A constraint is a limiting factor that affects the execution of a project, like a fixed deadline, a limited budget, or required resources.
So an assumption could be our key supplier will deliver materials on time, while a constraint might be this project must be completed by December 31st. Is that the kind of thing?
Those are perfect examples, and we need to manage both. We integrate these into our plans through assumption and constraint analysis, and we meticulously document them in an assumption log. What's fascinating, or maybe scary here, is that unverified assumptions are truly like hidden landmines in your project plan.
Yeah, what's the risk there if an assumption turns out to be wrong?
Well, if that key supplier doesn't deliver on time, your entire schedule could be thrown off, potentially leading to costly delays or missed milestones. The risk of not verifying an assumption is that your entire plan might be built on shaky ground. If a foundational assumption proves false, it can lead to significant rework, budget overruns, and sometimes even outright project failure.
Definitely need to keep an eye on those assumptions then.
Absolutely. A baseline is the approved version of a work product, like the scope, schedule, or cost baseline. It's used as a fixed reference point for comparison against actual results. You measure progress against the baseline. And progressive elaboration is the iterative process of continually increasing the level of detail in the project management plan as more information becomes available and estimates become more refined. You don't know everything up front.
That sounds like planning a complex trip again. You might start with a high-level itinerary, your baseline. Then, as the departure date nears, you progressively elaborate, adding specific hotel bookings, detailed activities, local transport. You don't know all the minutiae on day one.
Exactly. It's a superb analogy. It highlights that in dynamic environments, you don't, and often shouldn't, try to nail down every single detail from the start. Planning is an ongoing process of refinement, especially in adaptive or agile approaches. B, project planning and governance. Moving into planning and how projects are directed within an organization. The project charter is a really crucial document. Issued by the project initiator or sponsor, it formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities.
So it's the official green light and gives the PM power.
Essentially, yes. A project brief is often a precursor or a summary, offering a high-level overview of the project's goals, deliverables, and processes. But the project management plan is the single, overarching, central document. It details how the project will be executed, monitored, controlled, and closed. It integrates all the subsidiary plans like scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, etc.
The master plan for the whole project.
Precisely. Project governance refers to the framework, functions, and processes that guide project management activities in order to create a unique product, service, or result to meet organizational, strategic, and operational goals. It's about how decisions are made for the project. This is distinct from broader governance, which is the overall framework for directing and controlling an organization through policies, established models, and decision-making processes. Project governance fits within organizational governance.
Okay, governance is the bigger picture rules. Project governance is how those rules apply specifically to making decisions within the project.
You got it. Tailoring is the deliberate adaptation of the project management approach, governance, and processes to make them most suitable for the unique environment and specific work of a given project.
That idea of tailoring is interesting. In a world that seems to love standardized processes, why is this flexibility, this ability to adapt, so crucial for project success? Isn't standardization better?
That's a really insightful question, and it speaks to the art, not just the science, of project management. While standardization provides a common language and efficiency for routine things, tailoring acknowledges that no two projects are truly identical. A rigid, one-size-fits-all methodology can be incredibly cumbersome, inefficient, or even counterproductive for certain projects.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to apply the same intense documentation and multi-layered approval processes required for building, say, a nuclear power plant.
Right.
to a small internal team developing a minor update for a company website. It would just suffocate innovation and waste resources completely.
Yeah. Oh,
Exactly. Tailoring is crucial because it ensures pragmatism. It allows the project manager and the team to select and scale the most appropriate processes, tools, and techniques for that specific project's size, complexity, risk level, industry, and organizational culture. It optimizes resource allocation, streamlines workflows, and increases the likelihood of success by making the project management approach fit the actual project, rather than forcing the project to fit a predefined, perhaps unsuitable mold. It's about smart efficiency, not just blindly following rules.
so tailoring example. A small internal project might need less formal documentation, maybe fewer sign-offs, compared to a massive government contract with strict reporting requirements.
That's a perfect example of tailoring in action, adjusting the level of formality and documentation based on project characteristics. A methodology is a system of practices, techniques, procedures, and rules used by those who work in a discipline. Think Scrum, Waterfall, Prince2. A method is a bit simpler, just a means for achieving an outcome, result, or deliverable, like using brainstorming as a method to generate ideas.
Okay, methodology is a whole system. Method is a specific technique within it.
Generally, yes. A team charter is a really useful document, especially at the start. It documents the team's values, agreements, and operating guidelines. It helps set expectations for how the team will work together. And a project vision statement provides a concise, high-level description of the project that's meant to inspire the team and stakeholders about the purpose and desired outcome.
Sort of the why behind the project.
Exactly. It captures the aspiration. The business case provides the justification for undertaking a project, typically tying it to strategic objectives and demonstrating the expected value. Business value is the net quantifiable benefit derived from a business endeavor, which can be tangible, intangible, or both. And the business model canvas is a useful one-page visual summary. It outlines key elements like the value proposition, infrastructure, customers, and finances needed to deliver that value. C, scope management. All right, next up, let's tackle scope. This is absolutely fundamental to any project. Scope refers to the sum of the products, services, and results to be provided as a project. However, we have a critical distinction here that often causes confusion. Project scope versus product scope. Okay, yeah, this one. Project scope versus product scope. Let's make it really concrete with a single example. If we're building, say, a custom software application, what would be its product scope versus its project scope? Excellent point for clarity. If we're building that custom software app for a client, the product scope would be things like the application must allow users to log in securely, manage a database of customer contacts, generate weekly sales reports automatically, and integrate seamlessly with their existing accounting system.
Wow.
These are the features and functions the final application itself must possess. What the thing is.
Okay, the what the software does.
Right. The project scope, on the other hand, describes all the work, all the activities, all the effort required to deliver that application with those features. This would include things like gathering user requirements, designing the user interface, coding the front-end and back-end modules, setting up database infrastructure, conducting integration testing, developing user training materials, training the client staff, and deploying the application to their servers. It's the how you build it, the work involved, not just what the final thing is.
Got it. Product scope is the what. Project scope is the how, all the work needed to deliver the what. That really helps.
Glad it clicked. The work breakdown structure, WBS, is that hierarchical decomposition of the total project scope into smaller, more manageable components called work packages. A WBS dictionary then provides detailed deliverable, activity, and scheduling information about each component in the WBS. It adds the necessary detail.
So WBS is the map. The dictionary is the guidebook for each location on the map.
Great analogy. The scope baseline is the approved version of the scope statement, WBS, and its associated WBS dictionary. It's the frozen, agreed-upon scope against which changes are measured. And the scope management plan describes how the project scope will be analyzed, defined, validated, and controlled throughout the project. Decomposition is simply the technique used to divide and subdivide the project scope and deliverables into those smaller, more manageable parts for the WBS.
Breaking it down.
Exactly. Requirements are conditions or capabilities that are required to be present in a product, service, or result to satisfy a business need. They define what good looks like. Acceptance criteria are the specific, measurable conditions that must be met before a deliverable is formally accepted by the customer or sponsor. How we know a requirement is fulfilled.
The checklist for saying, yes, this is done and done right.
Precisely. These are meticulously captured in requirements documentation and managed according to the requirements management plan. A requirements traceability matrix is a grid that links requirements from their origin, like a business need or stakeholder request, through to the deliverables that satisfy them. It ensures nothing gets lost and everything is tested.
Keeps track of where requirements came from and where they ended up.
Exactly. In Agile context, the product owner is the person responsible for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. They are accountable for the end product and manage the product backlog. The minimum viable product, MVP, is a version of a new product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least effort. It's the smallest set of features that delivers actual value and allows for feedback.
I love the MVP concept. It sounds like building a basic scooter to get feedback on transportation before you invest years into building a full-fledged car. You get value and learning much, much faster that way.
That's exactly the spirit. It's a foundational Agile principle. Test your core assumptions with minimal investment, get real user feedback quickly, and then incrementally build out based on validated learning, not just guesswork. A user story is a simple, concise description of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability, usually a user or customer. Often in the format, as a type of user, I want some goals so that some reason.
Like, as a shopper, I want to save items to a wish list so that I can buy them later.
Perfect example. An epic is a large user story or a large body of related work that can be broken down into a number of smaller stories. It helps organize big chunks of functionality.
So an epic might be manage wish list functionality, and the user story is one specific part of that.
Typically, yes. And story point is a relative unit of measure used in Agile estimating and planning. It provides an estimate of the overall effort required to fully implement a product backlog item or any other piece of work, relative to other items, not tied to hours, but complexity effort. D, schedule management. Now let's look at arguably the most scrutinized aspect of project management time. The project schedule is the output of a schedule model showing linked activities with planned dates, durations, milestones, and resources. An activity list tabulates all these individual schedule activities that need to be performed to produce the project deliverables. Duration is the total number of work periods, not including holidays or other non-working periods, required to complete a schedule activity or work breakdown structure component, usually expressed in work days or work weeks.
It's the calendar time it takes.
Right, this is distinct from effort, which is the number of labor units required to complete a schedule activity or work breakdown structure component, often expressed in hours, days, or weeks.
Okay, that distinction between duration and effort always trips people up. Can you give us another clear example to really cement it? Because they sound similar.
They do, and it's a classic point of confusion, so let's make it crystal clear. Imagine a task is to paint a large room. The duration might be estimated at 3 days, meaning it will take 3 working days on the calendar from when painting starts until it's completely finished, dry, and ready.
Okay, 3 days from start to finish.
Right. But if you assign 2 painters to work on it full time, say 8 hours a day each, the total effort expended is 48 person-hours. 2 painters, 8 hours a day, 3 days. If you assign only 1 painter, the duration might increase to 6 days, but the effort would still be 48 person-hours. 1 painter, 8 hours a day, 6 days. The duration is the calendar time. The effort is the total labor work hours put in.
Ah, okay. Duration is the window of time. Effort is the total person-hours spent within that window.
Got it. Exactly. A milestone is a significant point or event in a project, program, or portfolio. Often it's a zero-duration event marking a major accomplishment, like Phase 1 complete or product launched. The critical path is the sequence of activities that represents the longest path through a project, which determines the shortest possible project duration. Activities on this path have zero float or slack.
Meaning any delay on a critical path activity directly delays the whole project.
Precisely. The critical path method, CPM, is the technique used to identify this path and calculate float for all activities. Now, when we face schedule pressures, we often turn to schedule compression techniques. Crashing involves shortening the schedule duration for the least incremental cost by adding resources, like paying overtime, hiring more staff, or bringing in specialized equipment.
Throwing money at the problem to speed it up.
Pretty much. Fast-tracking means performing activities or phases in parallel for some portion of the duration that would normally be done sequentially, like starting the coding before the design is 100% finalized.
Doing things at the same time instead of one after another.
Right. Both sound like emergency measures, don't they?
They do. What are the inherent trade-offs and risks involved in crashing versus fast-tracking a project schedule? Because they can't be free fixes.
You're absolutely right. They're definitely not free fixes, and each comes with its own set of significant trade-offs and risks. With crashing, the primary trade-off is almost always increased cost. You're essentially throwing more money at the problem, whether it's through overtime pay, expedited shipping for materials, or hiring additional temporary contractors to reduce time. The risk here is that these incremental costs can quickly escalate and potentially blow your budget or significantly erode the project's profitability.
So crash, spend more money.
Generally, yes. With fast tracking, the main trade-off is increased risk and potential for rework. By overlapping activities that were intended to be sequential, you start work on a downstream activity before the upstream one is fully complete and stable. This significantly increases the chance of errors, miscommunications, finding out you built on a faulty foundation, and overall quality issues. If the predecessor activity changes late or reveals a flaw, the parallel started successor activity might need extensive rework, potentially negating any time saved and adding significant unexpected costs later on.
So fast track, take on more risk, potentially causing rework later.
Exactly. So crashing impacts cost more directly and immediately, while fast-tracking primarily impacts risk and quality, which could lead to more cost later through that rework. You choose based on which trade-off is more acceptable in your specific situation.
Makes sense. Depends what you can tolerate, more higher cost or higher risk.
Precisely. Lag refers to a purposeful delay in a successor activity relative to its predecessor. You finish task A, wait 2 days, then start task B. Lead is the opposite. It allows the successor activity to be advanced relative to a predecessor. You might start task B 2 days before task A is fully finished.
Like getting a head start.
Sort of, yes. The schedule baseline is the approved version of the schedule model that can be changed only through formal change control procedures and is used as a basis for comparison to actual results. Rolling wave planning is an iterative planning technique in which the work to be accomplished in the near term is planned in detail, while work further in the future is planned at a higher level. This links back to progressive elaboration.
Plan the immediate stuff carefully, keep the future stuff broader until you get closer.
You got it. And a Gantt chart is probably the most widely recognized tool here, a bar chart that shows schedule information where activities are listed on the vertical axis, dates on the horizontal axis, and activity durations are shown as horizontal bars placed according to start and finish dates. E. Cost management and contracts. Now let's talk about money. The budget is the approved estimate for the project or any work breakdown structure component or any schedule activity. The cost baseline is the approved time phase project budget, excluding any management reserves. This baseline is used as a basis for comparison to actual results, again using tools like earned value management.
The official budget timeline minus the emergency fund.
Exactly. The cost management plan is a component of the project management plan that describes how the project costs will be planned, structured, estimated, budgeted, managed, monitored, and controlled. When procuring goods or services from outside the organization, understanding contract types is absolutely essential. A fixed price contract is an agreement that sets a fixed total price for a defined product, service, or result to be provided. The seller bears most of the cost risk here. If their costs go up, their profit goes down.
Set price, seller takes the risk.
Right. A cost reimbursable contract involves the buyer reimbursing the seller for all legitimate actual costs incurred for completed work, plus a fee representing seller profit. Here, the buyer bears more of the cost risk, as the final cost isn't fixed up front. Variants include cost plus award fee, CPAF, where the fee depends on performance satisfaction, and cost plus incentive fee, CPIF, where the seller gets a bonus for meeting certain cost or performance targets. There's also cost plus fixed fee, CPFF, where the fee is a set amount.
Buyer pays actual costs plus some kind of fee. Buyer takes more risk.
Correct. A time and materials, T&M contract, is a hybrid type, containing aspects of both cost reimbursable and fixed price contracts. The buyer pays on a per hour or per item basis for the work, plus the actual cost of materials. It shares the risk between buyer and seller to some extent.
Pay as you go, basically.
In a sense, yes. Now, the big question is often when to use which type.
Yeah, so when would a project manager typically opt for a fixed price versus a cost reimbursable contract? It sounds like a major decision with significant risk implications for both sides.
It's absolutely one of the most strategic decisions a project manager or procurement team makes, precisely because it allocates risk so fundamentally. A fixed-price contract is typically chosen when the scope of work is extremely well-defined, requirements are stable and clearly understood, and the risks of unforeseen changes are considered low. For example, building a standard piece of equipment based on detailed blueprints, or developing software with very precise lockdown specifications. Here, the seller takes on more risk as they're committed to delivering for that set price, and they have to absorb any cost overruns. This provides cost predictability for the buyer.
Okay, use fixed price when you know exactly what you want and it's unlikely to change much.
Exactly. Conversely, a cost-reimbursable contract is more appropriate when the scope is not fully defined at the start, or when the project involves significant uncertainty, high risks, or innovation, like in research and development projects, or situations where requirements are expected to evolve significantly as you learn more. In this scenario, the buyer assumes more of the cost risk, agreeing to pay for actual costs incurred. This provides flexibility to the seller to adapt to changing needs, but offers less cost certainty for the buyer upfront. The fee structures, like award or incentive fees, are crucial here to motivate the seller to control costs and perform efficiently, even within this higher risk for the buyer context.
So use cost reimbursable when things are fuzzy, uncertain, or likely to change, and you need flexibility.
That's the core idea. Now, let's talk reserves again. Management reserve is an amount of the project budget withheld for management control purposes. These are budgets reserved for unforeseen work that is within the project scope. They address the unknown knowns, things you couldn't possibly plan for. This reserve is not part of the cost baseline.
The emergency fund held by management outside the main budget plan.
Right. Contingency reserve, in contrast, is budget within the cost baseline allocated for identified risks that are accepted and for which contingent or mitigating responses are developed. These are for the known unknowns risks you've identified and planned a response for should they occur.
Okay, that's a really crucial distinction again. So
Yeah.
if an unexpected, totally unforeseen, catastrophic weather event impacts our outdoor construction project, that might draw from the management reserve. But if we've specifically identified a 15% chance of a key supplier delay for a critical component and budgeted extra time and money for it in our plan, that's contingency reserve.
Your examples perfectly illustrate the difference. Contingency is for planned responses to known risks within the baseline. Management is for totally unexpected scope-related issues outside the baseline, controlled by management. It's a key concept for managing the inevitable uncertainties in projects.
Got it. Super helpful.
For estimating costs, and sometimes time, we have several methods. Analogous estimating uses values or attributes from a previous, similar project as the basis for estimating the same parameter for a current project. Quick, but often less accurate.
Using history as a guide.
Yep. Parametric estimating uses a statistical relationship between relevant historical data and other variables, example, square footage in construction, lines of code in software, to calculate an estimate. More accurate if the data and model are good.
Using a formula based on data.
Right. Multi-point estimating calculates an expected value estimate by using a weighted average of optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely estimates. A common approach is the P-AIR formula. Optimistic plus 4, most likely plus pessimistic, 6. This acknowledges uncertainty.
Averaging best, worst, and likely cases.
Exactly. Probabilistic estimating uses a range of estimates with associated probabilities, often depicted as a distribution, like using Monte Carlo simulation. Relative estimating compares the effort of items to other similar items, often used in Agile with story points. And single-point estimating just uses data to calculate one single value, which can be risky if uncertainty is high.
Okay, that's a lot of ways to estimate. With those varying levels of rigor, how does a project manager choose the right estimating method for a given scenario? It seems like the choice could significantly impact a project's accuracy and planning.
That's a truly critical decision. And the choice is always a trade-off between the desired accuracy, the amount and quality of information available, and the time and effort you can afford to put into the estimate itself. Analogous estimating is, like you said, quick and dirty. It's least accurate but fastest. It's best used in the very early stages of a project initiation or early planning when details are scarce, and you simply need a high-level, rough order of magnitude, ROM, estimate, maybe for initial feasibility or charter approval. You're basically saying this looks like that last project, which costs X.
Okay, early stages, low detail.
Parametric estimating offers a better level of accuracy, provided you have reliable historical data and clearly quantifiable parameters that correlate well with cost or duration. Think cost per square foot for construction or maybe development time per function point for software. It's suitable when you have some detail and good historical data to build a reliable model. More robust than analogous, but requires that good data.
Better data, better model, better estimate.
Right. Multi-point estimating, like PERT, is generally more accurate because it explicitly forces you to consider a range of possibilities and factors in uncertainty. It requires more effort, as you need to develop those optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely scenarios. It's ideal for estimating activities or work packages where there's significant uncertainty or risk, or for critical path activities where accuracy is paramount. It gives a more realistic forecast than a single point.
Use it when uncertainty is high or accuracy really matters.
Exactly. So you choose based on where you are in the project life cycle, early versus late, the level of detail available, the inherent uncertainty of the work, the stability of the requirements, and frankly, the consequences of being wrong with your estimate. It's about being pragmatic and selecting the method that provides the appropriate level of accuracy for the decision at hand, not just picking the most complex one available.
That's a really practical way to look at things.
Don't forget the basis of estimates. This is supporting documentation outlining the details used in establishing estimates, such as assumptions, constraints, level of detail ranges, and confidence levels. Crucial for understanding how an estimate was derived. Bid documents are used to solicit proposals from prospective sellers. Things like RFI, request for information, RFQ, request for quotation, RFP, request for proposal. A bidder conference is a meeting with prospective sellers held prior to the preparation of a bid or proposal to ensure all potential vendors have a clear and common understanding of the procurement requirements.
Levels the playing field for bidders.
Precisely. And lastly here, Life Cycle Assessment, LCA, is a tool to assess the total environmental impact of a product, process, or service throughout its lifespan, from raw material extraction to disposal. Increasingly important for sustainability considerations. F. Quality management. Let's turn our attention now to quality. In PMP terms, quality is defined as the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics of a product, service, or result fulfills requirements. It's about meeting the agreed-upon specs. The quality policy sets the basic principles governing an organization's actions regarding quality. The quality management plan describes how applicable policies, procedures, and guidelines will be implemented to achieve the quality objectives. And quality metrics describe a project or product attribute and how the quality control process will measure it.
Defining what good means and how we'll measure it.
Exactly. Conformance is a general concept relating to the degree to which results meet specifications. Now, a fascinating pair of terms often confused are accuracy and precision. Accuracy is an assessment of correctness. Within the quality management system, it means how close a measurement is to the true or correct value. Precision is an assessment of exactness. Within the quality management system, it's about how close repeated measurements are to each other, even if they are inaccurate. Consistency of results.
The classic dartboard analogy comes to mind here. If my darts are all tightly clustered together but hitting the board's outer ring, way off the bullseye, they're precise but inaccurate.
Right. Consistently wrong.
But if my darts are scattered kind of all over the board, but their average position is right around the bullseye, they're accurate on average, but not precise at all. Is that a perfect way to visualize it?
It's the perfect analogy, hands down. It makes the distinction instantly clear. Precision is about the grouping, accuracy is about hitting the target.
Okay, that helps. Given that, can you share a practical example where both accuracy and precision are not just desired, but absolutely vital? Maybe somewhere the stakes are really high.
Oh, absolutely. An excellent example where both are unequivocally vital is in the manufacturing and calibration of medical diagnostic equipment, say a machine measuring blood glucose levels for diabetics. Accuracy here would mean that when the machine reads a known blood sample with a glucose level of 100 mg/dL, the machine's reading is very close to that true value of 100. If it consistently reads 120 for a 100 sample, it's inaccurate, potentially leading a patient to take the wrong insulin dose.
Yeah, dangerous inaccuracy.
Precision means that if you test the same 100 mg/dL sample multiple times, the machine gives very nearly the same reading each time.
Yeah.
For example, 101, 100, 101, 100.5. If the readings jump around wildly, for example, 90, 110, 105, 95, it's imprecise, making it unreliable for monitoring trends or making treatment decisions.
Can't trust the numbers if they bounce around.
Exactly. In this scenario, inaccuracy leads to consistently wrong decisions, while imprecision leads to unreliable and confusing data. For safe and effective diabetes management, the device must be both accurate, close to the true value, and precise, giving consistent readings. Lives literally depend on it.
Wow. Okay, that makes the importance crystal clear.
Another term is grade. This is a category or rank used to distinguish items that have the same functional use, G hammer, but do not share the same requirements for quality. G different hammers are designed to withstand different amounts of force. Think of a basic cheap laptop versus a high-end, powerful workstation. Both fulfill the function of computer, but their grade dictates vastly different levels of performance, features, materials, and consequently quality requirements and price points.
So different levels for the same basic function.
Right. Common quality tools include the control chart, graphs process data over time against control limits to see if it's stable, check sheet, a simple tally sheet for data gathering, flowchart, diagrams process steps, and histogram, bar chart showing data distribution. The Pareto chart is particularly valuable. It's a specific type of histogram ordered by frequency of occurrence that often illustrates the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. Roughly 80% of the problems or defects usually come from 20% of the causes.
Helps you focus your improvement efforts on the vital few causes, not the trivial many.
Exactly. It's great for prioritization. And a quality report documents quality issues, recommendations for improvement, and summarizes findings from quality control activities. G. Resource management. Let's talk about managing the people and physical resources essential for any project. Authority is the right to apply project resources, expend funds, make decisions, or give approvals. Responsibility is an assignment that can be delegated, where the assigned person is expected to perform the requirements of the assignment, a duty.
Authority is the power, responsibility is the duty.
Nicely put. The project team consists of all individuals who support the project manager in performing the work of the project to achieve its objectives. The project management team is a subset of that, specifically the members who are directly involved in project management activities. The project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. A project lead is a role often seen, sometimes synonymous with PM, but sometimes distinct. It's a person who helps the project team achieve the project objectives, perhaps by facilitating processes, coordinating work, or providing technical leadership. Often more of a servant leader or orchestrator role, especially common in Agile or matrixed environments.
So, the project manager might be the captain, ultimately accountable for the overall voyage and destination, while a project lead might be more like the seasoned first mate or navigator, focused on guiding the ship day to day, removing obstacles, and empowering the crew.
That's a great metaphor. The project manager often holds the formal accountability, manages the budget, interfaces with sponsors, and owns the overall success criteria. The project lead, especially in contexts with self-organizing teams, might focus more intensely on team dynamics, facilitating collaboration, removing roadblocks, impediments, and ensuring the smooth flow of work day to day. They often empower the team to make tactical decisions.
Right. A self-organizing team is a cross-functional team in which people fluidly assume leadership roles as needed to achieve the team's objectives. They figure out how best to do the work themselves. Self-organizing teams sound incredibly empowering in theory, but they also seem like they could come with potential challenges, especially when trying to implement them in larger, more traditional hierarchical organizations. What are some of the key benefits and maybe the potential pitfalls to watch out for?
That's a very realistic perspective. Self-organizing teams, when they work well and are properly supported, offer compelling benefits. They often lead to significantly higher team morale, increased engagement and ownership, faster problem solving, and greater innovation, because decisions are made by those closest to the work at the lowest possible level. They can adapt much more rapidly to changing circumstances without waiting for layers of management approval, potentially increasing throughput and customer responsiveness.
Sounds great. But the pitfalls.
The pitfalls are real, especially in traditional settings. One major challenge is the cultural shift required from management. Leaders need to move from a command and control mindset, telling people what to do, to one of servant leadership, enabling the team to succeed. This involves building trust, delegating real authority, and being comfortable with the loss of direct control, which can be deeply uncomfortable for many managers.
Yeah, letting go can be hard.
Very. Another pitfall is the need for clear boundaries, a well-defined mission or vision, and agreed-upon operating rules, like in a team charter. Without these guardrails, self-organizing teams can struggle with a lack of direction, wander off track, duplicate efforts, or become paralyzed by internal conflicts over priorities or methods. They also require a certain level of maturity and strong interpersonal and communication skills within the team itself. Team members need to be willing to collaborate, hold each other accountable, and resolve conflicts constructively. Without a truly supportive organizational environment and the right skills, these teams can unfortunately flounder, leading to frustration and inefficiency rather than the intended empowerment. It's not magic. It requires deliberate cultivation.
So it needs the right environment and the right team skills to really work.
Absolutely. The Resource Management Plan describes how project resources are acquired, allocated, monitored, and controlled. The Resource Breakdown Structure, RBS, is a hierarchical representation of resources by category and type. The example, labor, materials, equipment, locations. The organizational breakdown structure, OBS, is different. It's a hierarchical representation of the project organization, arranged so as to relate the work packages to the performing organizational units. It shows who in the organization is responsible for what part of the WBS. And the Responsibility Assignment Matrix, RAM, is a grid that shows the project resources assigned to each work package. A common type is the RCI matrix, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed.
The RACI chart shows who does what for each task. Very useful.
Extremely useful for clarifying roles. A virtual team is simply a group of people with a shared goal who fulfill their roles with little or no time spent meeting face-to-face. Increasingly common. And swarm is a term often used in Agile, where multiple team members collectively focus their efforts on a single, specific, often difficult or high-priority work item until it is completed.
Like bees on honey, all hands on deck for one critical task.
Exactly. It's about tackling bottlenecks quickly. H. Risk and uncertainty management. Now on to navigating the inherent uncertainty in projects. A risk is defined as an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives. Note the positive or negative part. A positive risk is an opportunity, and a negative risk is a threat.
So risk isn't always bad news. It can be good news, too.
Absolutely. Good risk management looks for opportunities just as much as it defends against threats. Uncertainty is a broader lack of understanding or awareness of issues, events, paths to follow, or solutions to pursue. Ambiguity refers to a situation where information can be understood in more than one way. A contingency refers to possible future events or conditions that may require a response, often accounted for with a reserve. We talked about contingency reserve earlier. A reserve in general is a provision in the plan to mitigate cost or schedule risk. Reserve analysis is the process of evaluating the amount of risk on the project and the amount of schedule and budget reserve needed.
Figuring out how much buffer you need.
Right. The risk breakdown structure, RBS, is a hierarchical representation of potential sources of risk. It helps categorize and organize risks. The probability and impact matrix is a grid for mapping the probability of occurrence of each risk and its impact on project objectives if that risk occurs. Helps prioritize risks. High probability, high impact risks need the most attention.
Visual tool for sorting risks.
Yes. The risk register is a repository in which outputs of risk management processes are recorded. It tracks identified risks, their analysis, and response plans. The risk management plan describes how risk management activities will be structured and performed throughout the project. Now, the risk response strategies are critical. Let's look at threats, negative risks first. Escalate. This is appropriate when the threat is outside the project scope or the proposed response exceeds the project manager's authority. You pass it up the chain. Avoid. Taking action to eliminate the threat entirely or protect the project from its impact. For example, if using a cutting-edge, unproven technology poses a high threat of failure, you might avoid that threat by choosing a more stable, proven technology instead, even if it's less flashy.
Change the plan to dodge the bullet.
Exactly. Transfer. Shifting the impact of a threat along with ownership of the response to a third party. Buying insurance is a classic example. You transfer the financial impact of, say, equipment damage to the insurance company. Outsourcing a particularly risky part of the work can also be a form of transfer.
Make it someone else's problem, usually for a fee.
Pretty much. Mitigate. Taking action to decrease the probability of occurrence and ensure the negative impact of a threat. If there's a risk of a key team member leaving, you might mitigate it by ensuring knowledge is shared, documenting processes well, and cross-training other team members. This reduces the impact if they do leave.
Reduce the chance or the damage.
Right. And accept. Acknowledging the existence of a threat, but deciding not to take any proactive action unless the risk actually occurs. This is often chosen for low priority, low probability, low impact risks, where the cost or effort of any of the response outweighs the potential harm. It can be active, develop a contingency plan just in case, or passive, do nothing.
Just live with it, maybe have a backup plan ready.
Okay, now for opportunities. Positive risks. Escalate. Similar to threats, if the opportunity is outside the project scope or requires authority beyond the PM, you escalate it so the appropriate level in the organization can pursue it. Exploit. Taking actions to ensure that an opportunity occurs and its positive impact is realized. If you identify a chance to finish a phase significantly early due to a supplier offering faster delivery, you might exploit it by reorganizing subsequent tasks to take full advantage of that time saving, perhaps leading to an early overall finish.
Make sure the good thing happens and grab the benefit.
Yep. Share. Allocating some or all of the ownership of an opportunity to a third party who is best able to capture its benefit for the project. Forming a joint venture or a special partnership to pursue a new market opportunity that arose during the project would be an example of sharing.
Partner up to grab the opportunity together.
Exactly. Enhance. Taking action to increase the probability of occurrence or the positive impact of an opportunity. If there's a chance to win a prestigious industry award for your project's innovative design, you might enhance that opportunity by dedicating extra resources to documenting the innovation, preparing a compelling submission, and actively promoting it. This increases the likelihood of winning.
Boost the odds or the payoff of the good thing.
You got it. And accept. Being willing to take advantage of an opportunity if it arises, but not actively pursuing it. Similar to accepting a threat, this is usually for opportunities where the potential benefit doesn't justify the effort to exploit, share, or enhance.
Wait and see if the good luck happens, but don't chase it.
Right. So you see the symmetry? Avoid exploit, transfer share, mitigate enhance, and accept.
It's striking how these strategies mirror each other for both threats and opportunities. What's the critical importance of having both sets of strategies? Why not just focus on avoiding the bad stuff? That seems like the main job.
That raises a really fundamental point about what proactive and mature risk management actually is. It's very easy and quite common, actually, to get tunnel vision and focus solely on the negative, the threats, the problems, the things that could go wrong. That's natural. However, neglecting opportunities means you're potentially leaving significant value, innovation, efficiency gains, and strategic advantage just sitting on the table, untouched. Having both threat and opportunity response strategies embedded in your risk management process ensures a truly balanced and holistic approach to managing uncertainty. It shifts the project mindset from merely defensive problem avoidance to active value creation and maximization. By systematically identifying, analyzing, and strategizing for opportunities, project teams can not only protect the project from harm, but also significantly enhance its outcomes, deliver more value than initially expected, delight stakeholders, and even open up entirely new avenues or benefits for the organization that weren't foreseen at the start. It's about actively shaping the future in a positive way, not just defending against potential negatives.
That's a much more powerful way to think about risk managing uncertainty for maximum positive outcome, not just minimum negative outcome.
Precisely. Expected monetary value, EMV, is a statistical technique. For a given risk, you multiply the probability of occurrence by the monetary impact if it occurs, positive for opportunities, negative for threats, to get an expected value. Helps compare risks quantitatively. Sensitivity analysis helps determine which individual project risks or other sources of uncertainty have the most potential impact on project outcomes, often shown as a tornado diagram. Monte Carlo simulation is a computer modeling technique that performs many iterations, thousands or more, using random inputs based on probability distributions for things like task durations or costs. It develops a probability distribution of the likely project outcomes, like completion date or total cost.
Gives you a range of possibilities and their likelihoods.
It's exactly. What if scenario analysis evaluates scenarios to predict their effect on project objectives? What if this key resource is unavailable? What if this material cost doubles? Root cause analysis is an analytical technique used to determine the basic underlying reason that causes a variance, defect, or risk. Finding the real source, not just the symptom. Last responsible moment is an adaptive strategy. It means deferring a decision to allow more information to become available, but making it just before the opportunity to influence the outcome disappears. Delaying commitment. The uncertainty domain is one of the performance domains in PMBOK 7, specifically addressing activities related to risk and uncertainty. Risk reassessment or scanning involves regularly analyzing existing risks and identifying any new risks emerging during the project. Risk management isn't a one-time thing. And risk appetite is the degree of uncertainty an organization or individual is willing to accept in anticipation of a reward. How much risk are we comfortable taking? It's communications and stakeholder management. Now let's discuss getting the right message to the right people at the right time. The communications management plan is a component of the project plan that describes how, when, and by whom information about the project will be administered and disseminated. A stakeholder is any individual, group, or organization that may be affected by, or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project, program, or portfolio. Very broad definition.
Basically anyone who has an interest or could be impacted.
Pretty much. Stakeholder analysis is a technique of systematically gathering and analyzing quantitative and qualitative information to determine whose interests should be taken into account throughout the project. identifying who they are, what they care about, their influence, etc. The Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix is a tool that helps compare current stakeholder engagement levels with the desired levels needed for project success. Are they unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, leading? Where do we need them to be? The Stakeholder Engagement Plan outlines the strategies and actions required to promote productive involvement of stakeholders in project decision-making and execution. How we'll get them to the desired engagement level. And the Stakeholder Register is a project document including the identification, assessment, and classification of project stakeholders. It lists them and key info about them.
Keeping track of everyone involved.
Right. The sponsor is a key stakeholder, the person or group who provides resources and support for the project and is accountable for enabling success. A steering committee is an advisory body, usually composed of senior stakeholders, that provides guidance and direction on strategic issues related to the project. Osmotic communication is a fascinating concept, particularly relevant in co-located Agile teams, though less so in virtual ones. It describes the useful information that flows subconsciously or implicitly to team members who are located in the same physical space, just by overhearing discussions or observing interactions.
Ah, like absorbing information just by being in the room. I can see how that would be incredibly efficient in a buzzing, open-plan, agile office. Information just flows without needing formal meetings for everything.
Absolutely. It's a powerful, often unspoken benefit of co-location. Team members absorb crucial context, pick up on nuances, and stay aligned simply by being present and aware of the ambient conversation. It streamlines information flow and fosters a shared understanding that's often very difficult, though not impossible, to fully replicate in distributed or remote teams.
Makes sense. You miss those overheard snippets when everyone's remote.
You do. Emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, assess, and manage one's own emotions and the emotions of others, as well as understand and manage group emotions. Hugely important for stakeholder engagement and team leadership. An information radiator is a visible physical display, like a Kanban board, a burned-down chart taped to the wall, a project dashboard on a large screen that provides up-to-the-minute information to the team and anyone else interested, enabling transparency and timely knowledge sharing without needing to ask.
Makes progress visible to everyone easily. Okay. But with potentially dozens, maybe even hundreds of diverse stakeholder groups on a large project, often with conflicting interests, effective communication must feel like navigating a minefield sometimes. What's the absolute key to managing that complexity and truly engaging everyone effectively, especially the difficult ones?
You're right, it absolutely can feel like a minefield, and it's arguably one of the project manager's most challenging and yet most vital skills. There isn't one single magic bullet, but the absolute key, I believe, lies in deep, continuous stakeholder analysis combined with highly tailored communication strategies. It's definitely not a one-time activity you do at the start and then forget. You need to first rigorously identify who all your stakeholders are, even the ones who seem peripheral. Then you need to understand their unique interests, their potential impact on the project, their power, their current level of influence, and their current attitude or engagement level, supportive, resistant, etc. For those stakeholders with conflicting interests, the crucial first step is to dig deeper and understand their underlying motivations and concerns, not just react to their stated positions or demands. What are they really worried about? What do they really need?
Getting beyond the surface arguments.
Exactly. Then, armed with that understanding, you must tailor your communication approach for each key stakeholder or group. A high-influence, highly resistant stakeholder might require frequent, perhaps informal, one-on-one conversations where you actively listen, build rapport, seek common ground, explain the why behind decisions, and explore potential compromises. Transparency and empathy are key here. For other stakeholders, maybe a well-structured monthly status report, access to a project dashboard, inclusion in specific review meetings, or even just an occasional informal email update might be perfectly sufficient. The method, frequency, and level of detail have to match their needs and influence. Crucially, honesty and transparency are paramount throughout. Clearly articulate the project's objectives, constraints, progress, and the rationale behind key decisions, even if those decisions are unpopular with some groups. The goal isn't necessarily to make everyone happy or agree with everything as often as possible. The goal is to ensure everyone feels heard, understood, respected, and adequately informed so they can manage their own expectations. It's fundamentally about building trust and managing relationships, not just broadcasting information blasts.
Wow. That's a lot more involved than just sending out emails. It's real relationship management.
It absolutely is. It takes significant effort but pays huge dividends. J. Procurement management. Just briefly touching on procurement again, as it's closely linked to contracts and stakeholders. The procurement management plan describes how a project team will acquire goods and services from outside the performing organization. A contract, as we discussed, is a mutually binding agreement that obligates the seller to provide the specified products, services, or results and obligates the buyer to pay for them. Bid documents are used to solicit proposals from prospective sellers, RFI, RFQ, RFP, and the bidder conference is that meeting held with prospective sellers before they prepare their bids or proposals to ensure everyone has the same understanding of the requirements and can ask clarifying questions. K. Agile and adaptive approaches. Let's shift gears a bit more formally into the world of agile and adaptive approaches, which are increasingly prevalent and integrated into the PMP framework. Agile itself isn't a methodology, strictly speaking. It describes a mindset defined by values, guided by principles, and manifested through many different practices. It emphasizes collaboration, customer focus, responding to change, and delivering value frequently. An adaptive approach, which could be agile, iterative, or incremental, is generally intended for use when requirements are subject to high uncertainty and volatility and are likely to change throughout the project.
Flexible approaches for fuzzy problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's helpful to distinguish between a few related terms. An iterative approach involves repeated cycles of work activities, iterations. Each iteration allows the team to progressively refine the product or solution based on feedback. Think of sculpting. You start with a rough form and repeatedly refine it until the final piece emerges. You're working on the whole thing in cycles.
Refining the whole thing over and over.
An incremental approach means producing deliverables in small, usable, functional pieces or increments, like building a Lego model section by section, where each completed section, increment, adds functional value, even if the whole model isn't finished yet. You deliver working parts sequentially.
Building it piece by piece.
And a hybrid approach intelligently combines elements of agilely adaptive methods with more traditional, non-agile, often called predictive or waterfall methods, within the same project.
Okay, I often hear iterative and incremental used almost interchangeably, but your distinction makes them sound quite different in how they deliver value. Can you elaborate on that a bit more, maybe with that house analogy again? And how does hybrid actually blend these with the traditional ways?
That's a really common point of confusion, so let's clarify using that house building analogy again, because it works well here. A purely iterative approach to building a house might involve Iteration 1, build a rough, basic, functional shell of the entire house. Walls, roof, basic plumbage, electric. Iteration 2, refine the interior layout and finish the walls for the entire house. Iteration 3, install final fixtures and finishes throughout the entire house. Each cycle improves the entire structure, but you don't really have a livable section until quite late in the process. You're refining the whole thing repeatedly.
Okay, working on the whole house in cycles.
A purely incremental approach, on the other hand, means you build a house in distinct, fully completed functional chunks. Increment 1, fully complete the master bedroom suite, foundation to paint to fixtures. Increment 2, fully complete the kitchen. Increment 3, fully complete the living room. Each increment delivers a usable piece of the overall house, even if the rest isn't started. You deliver complete working pieces sequentially.
Delivering usable rooms one by one.
Right. Now, Agile often blends both iterative and incremental aspects. An Agile house builder might deliver small, functional increments, like a completed foundation for a specific section or a basic but working bathroom. Get feedback and then iteratively refine those pieces or build the next increment based on that feedback. It combines delivering value early, incremental, with adapting based on learning, iterative.
Mix and match, delivering pieces and refining them.
Exactly. A hybrid approach then explicitly combines these agile adaptive elements with more traditional predictive waterfall-like methods where those make sense. For instance, in a large, complex project like constructing a new hospital wing, the foundational concrete work, structural steel erection, and exterior cladding might be planned using a highly predictive approach. Why? Because these elements have very low uncertainty, high dependencies, and require detailed upfront planning and sequencing. You can't easily iterate on the foundation.
Right, gotta get that right the first time.
But the interior fit-out for the patient rooms, labs, and common areas might use an agile, iterative, or incremental approach. This allows hospital staff, the end users, to provide feedback on room layouts, equipment placement, and finishes as the work progresses, allowing for adjustments based on evolving needs or new technologies discovered during the longer construction timeline. It's about intelligently applying the right approach to the right part of the project based on its characteristics, like uncertainty and stability.
Using the best tool for each specific job within the project. That makes a lot of sense.
Scrum is a specific popular Agile framework that uses iterations called sprints. A sprint, or iteration, is a fixed time-boxed period, usually 1 to 4 weeks long, during which a potentially releasable product increment is created. Iteration planning is the meeting at the start of an iteration to clarify the backlog items the team will work on and define their acceptance criteria. The iteration plan is the detailed plan for that specific iteration. An iteration review is held at the end of the iteration to inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. It's often a demo for stakeholders. A daily stand-up, or daily scrum, is that short, typically 15-minute daily meeting where the development team synchronizes activities and creates a plan for the next 24 hours, usually focused on progress, plans, and impediments.
The quick daily check-in.
Right. A Kanban board is a visualization tool that enables improving the flow of work by making bottlenecks and work quantities visible. It shows work moving through different states. For example, to do, in progress, done.
We talked about Kanban versus Scrum boards earlier. How does a Kanban board in practice differ fundamentally from how a Scrum team uses its task board during a sprint? They both seem to visualize work, right?
They do both visualize work, which is a key similarity, but their underlying principles and practical use differ significantly. As we said, Scrum operates on fixed time boxes called sprints. A Scrum team commits to a specific scope of work, the sprint backlog, for that fixed period. The Scrum board primarily visualizes the progress of that committed sprint backlog through predefined stages, like to do, in progress, done, within that sprint. Its main purpose is transparency for the sprint work. Scrum prescribes specific roles, Scrum Master, Product Owner, Dev Team, and mandatory events, planning, daily Scrum, review, retrospective. It's a more structured, prescriptive framework focused on delivering a potentially releasable increment every sprint.
Okay, Scrum board tracks the sprint's committed work.
Kanban, by contrast, is fundamentally a continuous flow system. It doesn't rely on fixed iterations or pre-committed scope for a time box. Its primary focus is on optimizing the flow of individual work items through the entire value stream, from request to delivery. A Kanban board typically visualizes the entire workflow with more granular columns representing distinct process steps. For example, backlog, analysis, ready for dev, development, code review, testing, ready for deploy, deployed. Crucially, Kanban relies on explicitly limiting work in progress, WIP, for each stage, or sometimes overall. This is a core principle. Limiting WIP helps identify bottlenecks, reduce context switching, and improve flow.
So Kanban has WIP limits, Scrum doesn't necessarily.
Exactly. That's a key differentiator. In Kanban, work items are pulled into the next stage only when there is capacity, i.e. the WIP limit for that stage hasn't been reached. This creates a pull system, managing flow rather than pushing work onto the team. There are no required time boxes, roles, though roles often emerge, or prescribed ceremonies like in Scrum. The focus is on metrics like lead time, total time from request to delivery, cycle time, time spent actively working on an item, and throughput, items completed per time unit, and continuously improving that flow by managing WIP and addressing bottlenecks revealed on the board. Kanban is generally more flexible and adaptable, often used for continuous delivery environments, support teams, or situations where work arises unpredictably.
Flow, WIT limits, pull system, those are the Kanban hallmarks.
Okay.
Got it.
The product backlog is that ordered list of all the work, typically expressed as user stories or features, that is known to be needed for the product. It's the single source of requirements. Backlog refinement, sometimes called grooming, is the ongoing process of adding detail, estimates, and order to items in the product backlog, getting items ready for future iterations. A burn chart, either burn down or burn up, is a graphical representation of work remaining versus time, burn down, or work completed versus time burn up, used to track progress within an iteration or over a release. A story map is a visual model of all the features and functionality desired for a product, organized to show the user's journey or workflow. Help see the big picture. A mood chart is a simple tool sometimes used by teams to track moods or reactions over time, potentially highlighting issues or trends affecting team morale. Lead time, as mentioned, is the total time elapsed from when a customer request is made until the finished item is delivered. Cycle time is the total elapsed time an item spends within a specific part of the process, often from when work starts until it's ready for delivery. Teams often try to reduce both.
Lead time is the customer's total wait time. Cycle time is how long we actually worked on it, or it was in our part of the system.
Good distinction. Throughput is the number of items passing through a system or process per unit of time, a measure of productivity. Continuous delivery is the practice of delivering feature increments immediately to customers, often through automated deployment pipelines, typically multiple times a day. The definition of done, DoD, is a crucial checklist. It's a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. It ensures everyone understands what completed actually means for a backlog item.
The shared understanding of finished.
It's exactly. No ambiguity. DevOps is a set of practices that combines software development, dev, and IT operations. It aims to shorten the system's development lifecycle and provide continuous delivery with high software quality, emphasizing collaboration and automation. A digital product is simply a product or service that is delivered, used, and stored electronically. And flow refers to the smooth, uninterrupted progress of work items through a process or system, a key goal in lean and Kanban thinking. L, monitoring and controlling. Now let's look at the crucial processes involved in keeping a project on track and responding when things deviate. To monitor means to collect project performance data, produce performance measures, and report and disseminate performance information. Watching what's happening. To control means to compare actual performance with planned performance, the baseline, analyze variances, assess trends to affect process improvements, evaluate alternatives, and recommend appropriate corrective or preventive action as needed. Taking action based on what you monitored.
Monitor is watching, control is steering.
Excellent summary. A dashboard is a visual tool, often electronic, displaying charts, graphs, and key performance indicators, KPIs, showing progress and performance at a glance. Variance analysis is the technique for determining the cause and degree of difference between the baseline and actual performance. We saw this with CV and SV earlier. Trend analysis uses mathematical models to forecast future outcomes based on historical results, looking for patterns over time. A project review is an event typically held at the end of a phase or the project itself to assess the status, evaluate progress against objectives, and determine future actions or capture lessons learned. A phase gate, or stage gate, kill point, is a specific type of review held at the end of a project phase. A go-no-go decision is made about whether to continue to the next phase, modify it, or terminate the project altogether.
Formal decision point between phases.
Right. A change is simply any modification to any formally controlled document, deliverable, or baseline. A change request is a formal proposal to modify any document, deliverable, or baseline. It needs to go through the process. Change control is the overarching process whereby modifications to documents, deliverables, or baselines associated with the project are identified, documented, approved, or rejected. The Change Control Board, CCB, as we mentioned, is the formally chartered group responsible for reviewing, evaluating, approving, delaying, or rejecting changes to the project, and for recording and communicating such decisions.
The formal authority for changes.
The change control system includes the standardized procedures, forms, and roles for managing these changes. The change log is a comprehensive list of changes submitted during the project and their current status, approved, rejected, pending, etc. And change management, often used more broadly than just project change control, is a structured approach for transitioning individuals, teams, and organizations from a current state to a desired future state, managing the people side of change. M, project closure. Finally, we reach the end. The closing process group, in the traditional model, refers to those processes performed to formally complete or conclude all activities across all project management process groups to formally complete the project, phase, or contractual obligations. This isn't just about stopping work, it's a critical administrative and contractual step. It ensures all deliverables are formally accepted by the customer, final payments are made and received, project records are archived, team members are released, and crucially, lessons learned are documented and shared for the benefit of future projects.
So it's about formally tying up all the loose ends and learning from the experience, not just letting the project fade away.
Exactly. Formal closure is essential for organizational learning, proper resource reallocation, and confirming that all objectives were met or formally acknowledging why they weren't. It provides definitive closure. N, enterprise and organizational context. Let's just quickly zoom back out to the broader organizational landscape, reinforcing a couple of key terms. Enterprise environmental factors, EEF, are those conditions not under the immediate control of the project team that influence, constrain, or direct the project. These can be internal, like organizational culture, existing infrastructure, resource availability, or external, like government regulations, industry standards, market conditions, political climate.
The environment the project lives in.
Organizational process assets, OPA, are the internal plans, processes, policies, procedures, and knowledge bases specific to and used by the performing organization. These are things the project team can leverage. Examples include templates, standard procedures, historical project data, and the lessons learned repository.
The organization's internal toolkit and knowledge base.
Okay, I think this distinction between EEFs external uncontrollable context,
Yeah.
and OPAs, internal averagable resources, is really important. Could you give us just one more clear set of examples for each, and maybe how a PM would specifically navigate them in a real-world scenario?
Absolutely. It's a fundamental distinction worth reinforcing. Let's take the example of developing a new medical device within a large healthcare technology company. An EEF would be the stringent regulatory requirements imposed by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, or equivalent bodies in other countries. Your project must comply with these complex regulations regarding safety, efficacy, testing, and documentation. You cannot change these regulations. Your PM must navigate them by ensuring the project plan includes all necessary compliance activities, budgets for them, and manages stakeholder expectations around the associated timelines and rigor. Another EEF could be the company's overall risk tolerance level if the culture is highly risk averse. Securing approval for innovative but potentially riskier design features might require much more extensive justification and testing. Got it. FDA rules and company culture are EEFs have to work within them.
Now, an OPA in the same company might be their established, documented quality management system, QMS procedures, which detail exactly how design reviews, testing protocols, and documentation must be handled for medical devices. Your team leverages this OPA, following the defined processes instead of inventing their own. Another OPA could be the company's database of previously approved component suppliers or a library of reusable, validated software modules from past projects. The PM navigates OPAs by actively seeking them out, ensuring the team utilizes these existing assets, templates, procedures, knowledge to improve efficiency, ensure consistency, and reduce risk, rather than starting everything from scratch.
Okay, QMS procedures and supplier lists are OPA's internal stuff you use. That clarifies it perfectly.
Great. A portfolio consists of projects, programs, subsidiary portfolios, and operations managed as a group to achieve strategic organizational objectives. It's about doing the right work. Portfolio management is the centralized management of one or more portfolios to achieve those strategic objectives. A program is a group of related projects, subsidiary programs, and program activities managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. It's about managing related projects efficiently. Program management is the application of knowledge, skills, and principles to a program to achieve the program objectives and to obtain benefits and control not available by managing program components individually.
Okay, this hierarchy project program portfolio can still be a bit tricky sometimes. Can you use another simple analogy, maybe different from the chef one, to nail down the distinction between these three levels?
Sure, let's try a different analogy. How about space exploration? A single project could be designing and building a specific scientific instrument for a Mars rover. It has a defined scope, budget, schedule, and delivers that one unique instrument.
Building one specific part.
A program could be the entire Mars rover mission, like the Perseverance rover. This program includes multiple related projects managed together. The project to build the rover itself, the project to design the landing system, the project to develop the launch vehicle interface, the project managing the scientific operations on Mars, etc. Managing these as a coordinated program ensures they all integrate correctly and achieve the overall mission objective exploring Mars, which couldn't be done by managing them separately.
The whole rover mission, coordinating all its parts.
And a portfolio would be NASA's entire planetary science division's collection of missions and activities. This portfolio might include the Mars rover program, perhaps a program exploring Jupiter's moons, several individual projects developing new telescope technologies, and ongoing operational activities like managing the Deep Space Network. The portfolio manager balances resources and priorities across all these programs and projects to best achieve NASA's overall strategic objective of advancing planetary science knowledge within the agency's budget and long-term goals.
Okay, portfolio is the whole collection of space missions and related work aligned with a big strategy. Project program portfolio, that helps visualize the scale.
Yeah.
Exactly. Value Delivery System is a term from PMBOK 7, referring to the collection of strategic business activities aimed at building, sustaining, and advancing an organization. Projects, programs, portfolios, and operations all exist within this system. Product management focuses on the integration of people, data, processes, and business systems to create, maintain, and evolve a product or service throughout its life cycle. Often works closely with project management. And the triple bottom line is a framework considering not just profit, but also the social, people, and environmental planet impacts of business activities. Oh, analysis and estimation tools. Just quickly listing some other useful tools and techniques mentioned in the glossary. Alternatives analysis. Evaluating identified options to select the best way to perform work. Clustering. Classifying items into similar categories.
Data gathering and analysis methods, various techniques used to collect, assess, and evaluate data. Decision tree analysis, diagramming technique to evaluate implications of chain choices under uncertainty. Estimating methods, those we discussed: analogous, parametric, multipoint, etc. Function point. An estimate of the business functionality provided by an information system, used sometimes for software sizing. Impact mapping, a visual strategic planning method. Lean startup canvas, a one-page business plan template focusing on key hypotheses. Logic model, visual representation showing how an initiative is supposed to work. Make or buy analysis, deciding whether particular work can best be accomplished by the project team or needs to be purchased from outside sources. Modeling, creating representations like diagrams or storyboards. Prioritization matrix, grid for ranking items based on multiple criteria. Prioritization schema, any method used to write components or requirements. Regression analysis, statistical method examining relationships between variables. SWOT analysis, analyzing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Use case, describes how a user interacts with a system to achieve a specific goal. Value stream map, lean tool showing steps, time, and a process to identify waste. Value stream mapping, the method of creating that map to improve flow. Wideband Delphi, an estimating technique using multiple anonymous rounds with discussion to reach consensus. P, performance measures, and some terms related to measuring performance. Performance measurement baseline, PMB, that integrated scope, schedule, and cost baseline used for comparison. Measures of performance, characterize physical or functional attributes relating to system operation. Metric, a description of a project or product attribute and how to measure it. Net Promoter Score, NPS, an index measuring customer willingness to recommend a company's products or services. Technical performance measures, quantifiable measures of technical performance to ensure system components meet requirements. Vanity metric, this is a fun one, a measure that looks good on the surface but doesn't actually provide useful information for decision-making or reflect real business value.
Ah, like maybe tracking total website page views instead of actual conversion rates or customer engagement. High views might look good but mean nothing if no one's buying or signing up.
That's a perfect example. Page views can be easily inflated and might not correlate with actual business success, making it a potential vanity metric. Conversion rate is usually much more actionable. Velocity, in Agile, a measure of a team's productivity rate at which deliverables are produced, validated, and accepted within a single iteration. Usually an average based on recent iterations. Velocity chart tracks the rate, velocity, at which deliverables are produced over time. Helps with forecasting future iterations. Q, miscellaneous but important terms. And finally, to round out our deep dive, let's touch on just a few other vital miscellaneous terms from the glossary. Objective, something toward which work is to be directed, a strategic position to be attained, a purpose to be achieved, a result to be obtained, a product to be produced, or a service to be performed. What you're aiming for. Outcome, an end result or consequence of a process or project, can be intended or unintended. Impediment, also known as a blocker, an obstacle or hindrance that prevents the team from achieving its objectives, something stopping progress.
It sounds like quickly identifying and removing impediments, particularly in Agile contexts where flow is key, must be absolutely critical for maintaining momentum and workflow.
It truly is. In Agile methodologies like Scrum, one of the primary and constant responsibilities of a Scrum Master or any team facilitator is precisely that: to help the team rapidly identify, make visible, and facilitate the removal of impediments. Even seemingly small blockers waiting for a decision, lack of access to a system, an unclear requirement can completely halt the progress of an individual or even an entire self-organizing team. This creates bottlenecks, frustrates team members, wastes time, and ultimately delays the delivery of value. Swift identification and resolution are absolutely paramount to maintaining that continuous flow and achieving predictable velocity. It's a core part of enabling the team's success.
Keeping the path clear for the team.
It's exactly. Issue, a current condition or situation that may have an impact on project objectives, often something that needs a decision or action now. An impediment is a type of issue. Issue log, a project document used to record and monitor information on active issues. Knowledge, this can be explicit, knowledge that can be readily codified using words, pictures, numbers, easily documented and shared. Or tacit, knowledge that is personal and difficult to express, like insights, experience, intuition, judgment, know-how.
That concept of tacit knowledge sounds incredibly valuable, but also incredibly elusive, hard to pin down. Why is capturing it, or at least enabling its transfer, so crucial for organizations, even though it's much harder than just writing down facts in a manual?
That's a really perceptive observation, because you're right, while explicit knowledge is relatively easy to capture, store, and share, Think databases, manuals, documents. Tacit knowledge is often where the real organizational wisdom, the deep expertise, and the sustainable competitive advantage reside. It's the know-how that comes from years of hands-on experience, the intuition developed from facing similar problems before, the unwritten rules of navigated the organization, the subtle judgments, or the creative insights that an individual possesses but might not even realize they have, or find very difficult to articulate until prompted by a specific situation or discussion. If an experienced project manager, a brilliant software architect, or a seasoned business leader leaves an organization without their tacit knowledge being effectively transferred or shared, that invaluable learning, that unique perspective, effectively walks out the door with them, potentially lost forever.
Yeah, the secret sauce is gone.
It's exactly capturing it, or more realistically, facilitating its transfer, perhaps through mentorship programs, coaching, communities of practice, storytelling sessions, structured project debriefs like retrospectives, apprenticeships, or even just intentionally pairing experienced staff with junior staff on tasks is crucial. It's crucial because it significantly accelerates the learning curve for newer team members, prevents the organization from repeating past mistakes, fuels innovation by combining different tacit perspectives, builds resilience by distributing knowledge, and ensures the organization continues to learn and evolve as a collective entity, rather than being perpetually reliant on a few key individuals. It's about building that deep, shared institutional memory and capability.
Makes sense. It's about keeping the wisdom in the tribe.
Well put. Lessons learned. The knowledge gained during a project, which shows how project events were addressed, or should be addressed in the future, for the purpose of improving future performance. Lessons learned register. A project document used to record knowledge gained during a project so that it can be used to benefit current and future projects. Captures those lessons. Log. A document used to record or track items identified during project execution, like risks, issues, changes, defects. Prototype. A preliminary model of a product, service, or result produced to test a concept or process. Great for getting early feedback. Report. A formal record or summary of information. Resolve. An action taken to bring a defective or non-conforming component into compliance with requirements or specifications. Fixing something. Roadmap. A high-level visual summary that maps out the vision and direction of a product offering over time. Shows major milestones and deliverables. Role. A defined function to be performed by a project team member, such as testing, coding, inspecting. Scatter diagram. A graph that shows the relationship between two variables. Helps spot correlations. S-curve. A graph displaying cumulative costs, labor hours, percentage of work, or other quantities plotted against time. Often used to track progress against a baseline. Simulation. A technique that models the combined effect of individual project risks and other sources of uncertainty to evaluate their potential impact on achieving project objectives. Monte Carlo is a type of simulation. Status meeting. A regularly scheduled meeting held to exchange and analyze information about the project's current status and performance. Status report. A report on the status of accomplishments, expenditures, and likely future results for a project or work package. Threshold. A predetermined value for a metric that requires action if it's met or exceeded. Like, if CPI drops below 0.9, we need to escalate. Time box. A fixed period of time for an activity or iteration, like a sprint in Scrum. Tolerance. The quantified description of acceptable variation for a quality requirement. How much deviation is okay. Validation. The assurance that a product, service, or result meets the needs of the customer and other identified stakeholders. Focuses on fitness for use. Did we build the right thing? Value. The worth, importance, or usefulness of something. Often subjective. Value proposition. The value an organization communicates to its customers about the benefits its products or services offer. Variance. The quantifiable deviation, departure, or divergence away from a known baseline or expected value. The difference between planned and actual. Verification. The evaluation of whether or not a product, service, or result complies with a regulation, requirement, specification, or imposed condition. Often an internal process. Did we build the thing right?
Okay, let me try that distinction again. So if validation is confirming we built the right thing that the customer actually wants and needs, then verification is confirming we built the thing right according to our own technical specs, standards, and rules.
Exactly. You nailed it. Validation is external customer focus, fitness for purpose. Verification is internal technical focus, compliance to specification. A product could be perfectly verified, meets all specs, but fail validation. Customer hates it or doesn't solve their problem. Both are absolutely indispensable for true quality and project success.
Got it. Build the right thing and build the thing right. Two sides of the quality coin.
Perfectly said. Visual data and information. Artifacts that organize and present data and information in a visual format like charts, graph, diagrams. Vision statement. We mentioned this as summarized high-level description about the expectations for the product, service, or result. Voice of the customer. A planning technique used to provide products, services, and results that truly reflect customer requirements by translating customer wants and needs into specific technical requirements. Volatility. The possibility for rapid and unpredictable change. High volatility suggests adaptive approaches might be needed. And finally, waste. Any activity that consumes resources but does not add value as perceived by the customer. A core concept from lean thinking: identify and eliminate waste, like defects, overproduction, waiting, unnecessary motion, etc. Hashtag tag key learning points and recap. Wow, okay. What an extensive yet I hope deeply clarifying journey through the landscape of the PMP glossary. Our aim today was really to move beyond just reciting definitions and instead illuminate why this precise shared vocabulary is not just important, but truly fundamental for effective project management. These terms aren't just isolated words on a page. They are the bedrock for clear thinking, strategic planning, successful communication, and ultimately better project outcomes.
Absolutely, and I certainly feel that sense of clarity much more strongly now. For me, reflecting back, a few critical insights and distinctions really stood out, and I think they'll genuinely change how I think about projects going forward. Recap 1. That crucial, often confused distinction between project scope, all the work needed to deliver, and product scope, the features and functions of the thing being delivered. Getting both clearly defined and agreed upon upfront seems absolutely critical to avoid major misunderstandings down the line.
Foundational.
Recap 2. The contrasting nature, purpose, and control of management reserve for the truly unknown unknowns held outside the baseline by management versus contingency reserve for the known unknowns planned for within the baseline. Understanding these two distinct types of buffers is vital for managing different kinds of project uncertainty appropriately.
A key risk management concept.
Recap 3. The subtle but critical nuance between accuracy, hitting the target, correctness, and precision, consistency, grouping. Realizing that both are independently critical and that you could have one without the other was a real eye-opener. The examples, especially the medical one, drove home the serious implications. It's not enough to be nearly right. Often, you need to be consistently right, too.
Absolutely vital for quality.
Recap 4. The strategic trade-offs involved in schedule compression. Understanding that crashing primarily adds cost, while fast-tracking primarily adds risk and potential rework. Knowing when and why you might choose one over the other, and being aware of those consequences feels like a mark of experienced project judgment.
Managing constraints intelligently.
Recap 5. And finally, the strategic decision-making involved in choosing between fixed-price contracts, seller takes cost risk, buyer gets predictability, and cost-reimbursable contracts, buyer takes cost risk, gains flexibility. Understanding how each shifts risk and why context, like scope clarity, dictates the best choice, realizing this isn't just a legal detail, it's a fundamental risk management decision.
Huge implications for both parties. Those are indeed truly impactful takeaways. By grasping these distinctions, the trade-offs, and the underlying principles, you're not just memorizing terms, you're actively building a more robust mental framework for analyzing situations and making much better project decisions. It's all about gaining clarity and precision in thought and communication, which translates directly into superior project planning, execution, and control. Hashtag tag closing note.
Thank you so much for demystifying this essential PMP glossary for us today. This has been a truly comprehensive and, I have to say, incredibly illuminating deep dive. I know our listeners and I personally have gained immense value and clarity.
It was my absolute pleasure. I really enjoy exploring these foundational concepts. And while we've worked hard today to establish a strong shared vocabulary, maybe the final thought for everyone listening is to remember that true mastery doesn't stop here. It comes from applying these terms critically in your own context, questioning the assumptions behind them sometimes, and adapting them thoughtfully to the unique challenges and opportunities of your specific projects. The dictionary, the glossary, is merely the beginning, the essential toolkit. The real art of project management truly lies in the ongoing conversation, the collaboration, and the insightful application of these principles in the real world.
That's a fantastic thought to leave us with. The dictionary is the start, the art is in the conversation. Love it. To our listeners, I really encourage you to reflect on how you can start integrating this new, more precise vocabulary into your own work conversations and documentation, making your project discussions clearer, more efficient, and ultimately more effective. Armed with this foundational glossary, you are now truly ready to delve deeper into the how-to of project management processes and principles. Join us next time on AudioCert as we continue to bring those official study guides to life.